think it's a great start to things. I'm hoping that they will axe more. I think there's plenty of people that even you and I had dealings with in the past on X/Twitter and elsewhere. So I think this is the start of something great. I'm looking forward to seeing how things continue to develop at the RNC and how they could be turned into an effective vehicle to not only reelect President Trump, but to usher in his agenda at the federal, state, and local level.
So you're absolutely right that Chris LaCivita, Lara Trump, and others are putting personnel first, are putting systemic goals and systemic systems, a systems-based approach over, these sort of like, for example, the special counsel, or former special counsel is giving this testimony today. It's this big to do, and yet there's no discernible goal from that. There's no discernible win. There's no discernible victory to be had. He's not even recommending indictments. And talk to me a little bit about the difference between sort of the conservative catnip type content that's out there versus an actual systems focus.
No, this is such a great point, Jack. Listen, her testimony's fine and all, but again, it's just this testimony. It's just the sound bites. It's just the clips. It's, it's the Trey Gowdy approach to politics. Pound your fist in these committees and these hearings and follow through with nothing. I think what's happening at the RNC is far more consequential. I think the personnel decisions being made there are going to go a long way to changing the face of that party, to changing its level of competency and effectiveness and its ability to push forward an America First agenda. I think the Republican Party, whether we like it or not, is one of the few vehicles left institutionally that can be used to combat the left in this country. They haven't done a great job of it. Maybe in some cases they've aided and abetted it, but as a vehicle and taking over that vehicle, it could certainly be extremely useful in this political and this cultural and this spiritual fight that's engulfing our country. And I think starting at the base with the personnel decisions, I think that's going to be massive. And I think this is going to pave the way for fantastic personnel decisions to be made in an incoming Trump administration, where we know that the next 1,000 people after the president are really what's going to make a big difference. In the same way, you look at an institution like the RNC, changing the chairs, the co-chair, the chairman, the COO, those are big deals, but the next 60, 50, 100 people after them are also incredibly important. And we've had far too many Manchurian Republicans, rhinos, these Fabian-style, moderate liberal Republicans that have taken over Republican institutions. I mean, you deal with it at the state level, you deal with it at the local level. It's a losing mentality. It's a culture of losing, and it's a culture of spitting in the face of Republican voters and Republican small dollar donors. It's a party that has for far too long kowtowed to the whims of the donor class and the consultant class above all else. And that just shows the disconnect, the dichotomy that has existed between Republican leadership and Republican voters. And that situation was untenable in the long run. I mean, President Trump called it out. President Trump exposed it, but it couldn't last much longer. And I think what we're seeing is the beginning of the end. I think we're starting to see the cracks in this establishment infrastructure that's dominated the Beltway. And I hope we see more. I think we've seen similar things happen at the think tank level. I think we've seen similar things happen at the state and local level. And to see it now happen at the RNC, I think is a far bigger story.
No, Gavin, we also see, and this is something that Lara Trump said at the RNC meeting, that where she gave a full-throated endorsement of ballot chase, ballot harvesting type strategies. This is something that the left has made an absolute priority, one where clearly they've operationalized our elections, taken it away from actual voting and turned it into a ballot collection process. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Well, do the Democrats have all their show trials and all that? Sure. Yes, they do. They have all of those things. But you know what else they have? Organization. And this is something, sans a few organizations out there like yourselves, like Turning Point Action and others, we haven't seen the Republicans focus on things like this as much anymore. Talk to me about the importance of that type of organizing as we move and shift focus into the general election.
No, fantastic points. Republicans, conservatives, and the right writ large really need to do a better job of organization building, of institution building, of institutional takeovers. We should look to the left in their ideologically neutral tactics and, imitate them. They take over institutions. They take over corporate America. They organize. People made fun of Obama for being a community organizer, but they have built this really strong and expansive infrastructure from the voter all the way up to the federal government, the highest levels of the federal government, where everyone is part of this system. Everyone is almost effectively a dues-paying member of this left-wing ecosystem that is from cradle to grave. And because of that, they build political machines and they dominate urban politics. They dominate state-level politics. The places where they're in charge, they are really in charge. It's monopolistic. It's one party. They run roughshod. They spit in the Constitution's face. They spit on the voters' faces. They don't care about anything because they don't have any competition. Obviously, am I calling for a situation like that to be replicated? No, but I think we need to appreciate the power politics, the strategy and art of power, and learn from that, imitate it where possible, and bring it onto our side. And I think you bring up a great case here with ballot harvesting and all of these techniques. When and where they are legal, we should be using them. We should be taking advantage of them to the fullest extent of the law, because if we are, only focusing on one day of voting and they're using 30 days or plus of voting to get our low propensity voters, it's always going to be an uphill fight. And if we win, we'll be lucky, and it'll be by the skin of our teeth. What we really need to do is expand all our operations, and I believe the new leadership team at the RNC is moving full speed ahead in doing this. When and where it's legal, take advantage of these laws, and once we are in power, then we can change the law. The Republican mentality for so long is complain about it now, do nothing to fix it, and then complain about it more later while donating and grifting off of it. No, if it's legal, take advantage of it, and then once you're in positions of power, that's when you can bring about real change. But we need to, bring guns to a gunfight. We often bring knives to a gunfight, and we always, end up losing to these ruthless, vicious political operators on the left who understand power, who understand that dynamic, who are willing to wield it, and most importantly, they're willing to play the long game. They're willing to build out organizations and institutions that may not have payout right now, right in this cycle, but they may pay out dividends in cycles and decades and generations to come. Meanwhile, Republicans, we think very short term. We think very cyclically, just the next election cycle, just a few years down the line. We're not thinking about how we can change the country in a generation or two. There's no vision.